I was watering the ferns when I saw the white of the envelope breaking through the green of the garden. It sat on the iron table, next to the glass pitcher. Sophia arrived first, her eyes still carrying the fresh sparkle of graduation. A blue dress I recognized from the mannequin in the shop window now moved across my porch as if it belonged to the house. Behind her, Ricardo, light suit, practiced smile, the kind of charm that knows mirrors. He placed the envelope down with 2 fingers, as if stroking a tame animal. "This helps us plan for the future," he said. "Financial organization, adult stuff." Sophia nodded, eager to prove she was already grown. "It's just paperwork, Mom. Ricardo understands investments. We want to open a joint account for our plans. You understand, don't you? I understand. I understand how eyes dart away when there's something to hide. I understand how rushed people rename haste as efficiency. The envelope had my name written in fine pen. I didn't touch it. I let its weight grow without my fingers. "Take a look when you can," he said, picking up his glass and acting as though none of this mattered. "The trip is tomorrow. This saves time later." I waited for the gate to close. Only then did I tear the flap. Inside, more than just papers. My signature where I had never been. The curve of the M, the restrained stroke of the R, the habit of not closing the A, all exact, except for the fact that I had never signed it. The handwriting imitated my breathing. It lacked my breath. Section 9.3, Disclosure of Parental Resources and Prenuptial Trust. Surnames, percentages, a field to confirm expected assets. The signature, Maria Martinez, dated the day before. The electronic stamp. The return email for his office. Too clean. Ricardo had no idea what he was trying to reach for. Neither did Sophia. When my husband died, grief arrived with numbers. 12 million reais I kept as one keeps a name. I told no one, not Sophia, not the lawyers, until a discreet account with a discreet name became the wall between what is mine and what others might want. I closed my eyes for a second, long enough to hear the sound of a stapler that wasn't there. I opened them again, returned to the plants. The water hit the leaves and ran down like an answer I hadn't given yet. The signature was perfect, only it wasn't mine. And a number smaller than 12 million was about to become the bait. The doorbell rang at 10 a.m. The kitchen still smelled of coffee. I walked to the door with the envelope on my mind and the garden shears still in my hand. It wasn't Ricardo. It was a young man in his 20s, suit too tight for an old-fashioned office, briefcase that shone more than it should. "Mrs. Martinez?" he asked, as if the answer could change the script. I nodded. "Carlos Mendez, accountant. I represent Ricardo and Sophia." The "and Sophia" came too quickly, as a stamp of legitimacy. He was already crossing the threshold with the ease of someone who enters every day. He set the briefcase down on the dining table, the same one where Sophia used to work out fractions when the school bus was half an hour away. "It's a safety measure," he said, opening plastic sleeves and displaying papers with the gloss of a print shop. "Emergency regulations." With the wedding approaching, they decided to consolidate resources. It includes any family support that may facilitate the formation of the, he searched for the word, common fund. "My daughter's last name is Martinez," I cut him off, without inviting him to sit. "She hasn't changed it." He blinked, recovered his smile. "Of course. Pardon me. It's standard procedure. May I take 5 minutes?" The standard procedure was aimed at my silence. I stepped into the living room but remained standing, arms crossed, watching him unroll a catalog of modernity, digital platforms, intergenerational trust, smart wealth. Words that dissolve in the mouth when they hit the ground of real life. "Stop talking fancy," I asked. "Show me where it mentions money." His pen stopped at section 9.3. Disclosure of Parental Resources and Prenuptial Trust Configuration. Field to indicate current and expected assets, with checkboxes for inheritance, insurance, real estate, line for commitment of allocation. Another for my signature. His hand, trained, trembled by a millimeter. Trembling isn't a crime. Sometimes it's just the lie looking for somewhere to lean. He tried the protection angle. This protects everyone. Planning today is indispensable. I looked out the window, the hydrangea pot, the wooden fence, the chair that creaks when Sophia rocks on it since childhood. Then I returned to the papers. Has Sophia read this? They're young, he said, as if youth were a legal argument. They trust. The word trust hovered over the table like a fly one doesn't see landing. You come in, deliver, collect the signature, and disappear. I asked. I leave deadlines. Before the weekend would be ideal. Before the weekend. The trip, the timing, the rush, disguised as efficiency, a clock that isn't mine. I closed the briefcase calmly, as one closes a door without noise. Tell Ricardo he'll have to wait. I only sign after my lawyers read it. For a moment, I saw his script tear. He gathered his briefcase, recomposed his smile, and walked to the door. I'll be waiting. I closed it. Rested my back against the wood like someone listening to the echo of a yes I hadn't given. I breathed. The garden carried on its work of green. My mind, its work of numbers. If they wanted transparency, I would give it. Transparency sharp enough to blind. A small amount, perfect as bait. I named it silently, Plan 380. I called Dr. Paulo that afternoon, not to ask what should I do, but to draw what I already knew had to be done. I want an official document, I said. State that, after debts and costs, there remained 380,000 rees, nothing worthy of a trust. Create a plausible banking trail, old, with a small account I can show. Real enough for any curious eye to find. He breathed on the other end, weighing his words. And the real amount? Right where it's always been, out of reach of anyone who confuses love with spreadsheets. He gave a short laugh, a laugh that knew my battles. And why 380,000? Because it shines for the hungry but won't feed a predator for long. Whoever bites at this will bite at anything. At night, I printed the lean dossier. Statements, a PDF with letterhead, the Declaration of Resources. I placed it in the drawer of the hallway desk, neither hidden nor displayed. The bait must look like chance. I waited 3 days. On the 4th, it wasn't Ricardo who showed up. It was a message from the bank. Subject, suspicious access. Attempted login to inactive account. It said, maiden name. I read it again. That old, forgotten account with less than 8,000 reais. Almost accounting dust. But someone had stirred the dust along the right path. 2 people knew that detail. My husband, who never forgot anything, and Sophia, because I had opened the account with her when we were saving, together, for our first bus trip to the beach. The rest of the world would only know if they poked around from the inside. I sat in the study, Plan 380 papers to the left, Ricardo's contract to the right, kettle on the stove, the house breathing with the low sound of hours passing. There were 2 paths, close the door or open it and turn on the light. I chose light. I phoned Sophia in the morning. When are you 2 coming back? Tomorrow. Why? Lunch on me. I want to review the papers with both of you. Surprised silence. Then hurried relief. Ricardo will be so happy. I knew you'd understand. I understand. I understand everything when the table is mine. I reserved the clubhouse where Sophia used to love chasing the fish in the lake when she was little. Bright walls, waiters who vanish, gardens that hush voices. I called Dr. Paulo. No suit, I asked. No briefcase. Just sit, eat, observe. And if they ask what I do for a living? Insurance. It's always vague enough. Before bed, I reviewed the dossier again. The 380 in bold, the statement with plausible dates, the PDF with 3 pages, never 4, forged documents sin by excess. I turned off the light. The next day, there would be flowers on the table, salmon on the plate, and a mirror in front of the man who thought he knew me. The mirror is called proof, and it doesn't like being looked at. Ricardo knew, or at least, he suspected. It didn't take much, a loose phrase from Sophia. Mom manages just fine. She put something aside after Dad. Was enough for a man like him to turn suspicion into investigation. Sophia wasn't to blame. After her father's death, she clung to Ricardo like someone clings to a life vest in open water. He made her smile again. Only I saw what she didn't, salvation that charges interest. I spent the afternoon in Dr. Paulo's office. The desk was covered in papers, the lamp's glow resting on the forged letterhead. "It's all here," he said, sliding the dossier. "Statements, stamp, the amount of $380,000 nice and clear." "Perfect," I replied. "I want it to look legitimate, but not impressive. Just small enough not to attract the state, and large enough to stir up an opportunist." He laughed, a laugh born of old battles. "You're always 3 steps ahead. I have to be. We've faced this before. Remember my husband's brother at the funeral? He wanted to fabricate powers of attorney. He just didn't count on me already having a lawyer I could trust. I went home with the fake dossier, placed it on the hallway desk, half in view, like forgotten mail. The bait isn't the secret, it's the distraction, well placed. I waited. 2 days. 3. On the 4th, the news came. Attempt to access an old, nearly abandoned account under my maiden name. I almost laughed. Only 2 people knew that detail. My husband, who was no longer here, and Sophia, who had opened the account with me when she was a little girl. Ricardo could never have known alone. Someone had whispered wind into his sails. That night, I sat in the silence of the study. To the left, the Plan 380 dossier. To the right, the real contract he wanted. I looked at them like weapons on a table and decided it wouldn't be just defense, it would be an ambush. I picked up the phone. "Darling, when are you coming back from the trip?" I asked Sophia. "Tomorrow. Is everything all right?" "Everything. I'd like to invite you both for lunch. My treat. To settle these papers once and for all." She sighed with relief. "He'll be so happy. I knew you'd understand." I hung up and stood by the window. The dark garden reflected my shadow. They believed they were coming to sign their victory. In truth, they were walking onto a staged performance. I had already reserved the club's dining hall, light marble tables, discreet waiters, surrounding gardens. I asked Dr. Paulo to come with me, but not as a lawyer, as a lunch companion. The table was set. The dish would be salmon, but dessert would be Ricardo's face when he tasted Plan 380. The night before lunch was long. I reviewed the dossier 3 times, every number, every stamp. I was ready. But Ricardo, apparently, was preparing too. At 8 a.m., before I even left the house, I received a message on my phone. It was from Sophia. 2 short lines. "Mom, we need to talk. Don't be mad. Ricardo said you were rude to him." My body froze. He had flipped the table first, turned me into the villain before the match even began. It's the oldest trick. Grab the microphone and rewrite the story. Now, in my daughter's mind, I wasn't the woman protecting, but the controlling, jealous, bitter mother. I read the message 3 times. I didn't reply. I knew every word of mine could be used against me. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the phone as if it were a chess piece moving on its own. Ricardo wasn't just bold, he was quick. He had sensed my resistance and built a shield before my strike. I picked up the phone again. "Dr. Paulo?" My voice was low. "He's painted me as the villain." "I expected that," he answered calmly. "Do you still want to go through with the lunch?" "Yes, but not as an open battle. No suit, no briefcases. I want you there only as a silent witness." He smiled on the other end. "Understood. I'll bring only a pen and a napkin." Late afternoon, I went to the club to confirm the table, the same place where Sophia used to run as a child, tossing crumbs to the lake's fish. Glass walls, light curtains, expensive silence, perfect for conversations no one should hear, and for cameras everyone pretends not to see. That night, I didn't sleep. The digital clock read 3:07 a.m. when I was still awake, rehearsing each gesture, each phrase. I needed to smile without yielding, speak without shouting, prove without insulting. It was the only way Sophia wouldn't shut herself off completely. When the sun rose, the decision was clear. I wouldn't confront Ricardo with anger. I would let him hang himself with his own words. At that table, there would be salmon, wine, and flowers. But the main course would be the lie served in plain sight. They arrived on time. Ricardo in a light blue suit, smile of a television host, Sophia in a cream blouse, her arm looped through his, but her eyes darting sideways. I recognized the look, the gaze of someone searching for an exit before entering. I stood, kissed my daughter's cheek, greeted Ricardo with the politeness I had learned over decades of social events. "This is my friend Paulo," I introduced. "He works in insurance." He extended his hand calmly. Ricardo shook it, unsuspecting. We sat, we ordered, we talked about trips, weather, graduation. Small stories to disguise the weight of the table. Ricardo told of a borrowed boat at the hotel, and Sophia laughed without conviction. I observed every pause, every word, like someone reading a hidden contract. Then he leaned forward, resting his fork. The tone shifted. "Maria, let me clarify. I never meant to pressure you. I just thought we could build something smart together, as a family." I arched an eyebrow. Smart for whom? For everyone, for Sophia, for her future, for your well-being too. The words came gentle, but his eyes were heavy. Sophia looked from one to the other, torn between love and loyalty. I gave a brief smile. "That's very kind of you, Ricardo." Then he pulled from his briefcase the same contract I already knew. He slid it toward me, as if offering flowers. I brought it again, in case you had time to think. I took a deep breath. From my bag, I drew out the Plan 380 dossier, folded carefully. I placed it atop his. "This is my declaration of resources. After debts, 380,000 reais remain. That's what I have." His face kept smiling, but his eyes darkened. It was far too little to justify so much theater. Sophia leaned forward, surprised. "Just that, Mom? Your father left debts I chose not to tell you about. I sold the lake house. I made cuts. You didn't need to carry that burden." Ricardo took a quick sip of wine. The smile stayed, but stiffened, forced. "I see," he said. Paulo said nothing. He only scribbled, as if it were any other lunch. I knew each gesture was being recorded in memory. Then Ricardo stood abruptly. "Restroom," he muttered. Gave a short laugh. "Too much coffee this morning." I followed him with my eyes until he vanished through the door. The contract still lay on the table. Sophia stared at me, distressed. "Mom, did you really call him a liar?" I held her gaze. "No. But I said I wouldn't sign anything without legal review. And that scared him. He left for the restroom. But restrooms don't wash away guilt. They're phone booths. And I knew when he returned, his hands wouldn't be the only thing washed." Ricardo came back from the restroom as if nothing had happened. He adjusted his jacket, smiled, and picked up his fork again. But in his eyes there was a flicker, not rest, but calculation. The main course arrived. Steak for him, soup for me, salad for Sophia. We chatted about graduation memories, about trips. He staged lightness. But I noticed, each laugh of his landed half a second late, as if his brain were elsewhere. In the middle of lunch, he leaned in, lowering his voice. "Maria, I understand your concern, but planning together is only to protect Sophia. I feel responsible for her. Protector of what? I asked. Of her future, and, by extension, yours too. Sophia squeezed the napkin in her lap. I saw her shake her head, like someone trying to believe. Ricardo then pulled the briefcase and placed the contract on the table with the ease of someone offering dessert. Here it is again, in case you'd like to sign. I kept my smile. From my bag, I pulled out Plan 380. I set it on top of his contract. This is my declaration of resources. 380,000 rees remain. That's what I have. He froze. For a moment, the performance slipped. His eyes blinked too fast. His fingers trembled on the glass. 380,000 rees was not what he expected. Sophia was shocked. Just that, Mom? Your father left debts I chose not to tell you about. I sold the lake house, cut expenses. I didn't want you to carry that burden. Ricardo breathed deeply, swallowing hard, smiled again, but the smile was crooked. I understand. The waiter brought the wine. He stood once more. Restroom again. A short laugh. Too much coffee. He vanished through the door. Sophia leaned toward me. Mom, he said you called him a liar. I looked firmly. I said I wouldn't sign anything without a lawyer. Whoever fears that, Sophia, is not honest. Ricardo had been in the restroom too long. And restrooms, I knew, weren't just for washing hands. They were phone booths. Ricardo returned to the table smiling. He paid the bill as if to prove he was still in control. Lunch ended with quick hugs, empty words, and they left. But I didn't relax. The bait was set. 2 days later, the phone rang at 11:40 p.m. It was my bank manager. There was an attempt to withdraw 380,000 reais, she said, from your old online account. Unrecognized device. My heart froze. What device? Tablet registered as Sophia iPad. Connection from Hotel Mirador. Yesterday at 10:41 p.m. I closed my eyes. There was the proof. Ricardo had taken the bait. He believed the fake dossier and tried to transfer everything. He had used Sophia's access, which was worse than theft. It was invasion of her life. I hung up and tried to call my daughter. No answer. I sent a message. Call me. Urgent. She replied hours later. We're resting. We'll talk tomorrow. Resting. But I didn't sleep. I paced the house all night. Locked windows, closed drawers, peeked through curtains. The clock read 3:12 a.m., and I was still on my feet, hearing only the tick of the wall clock and my own heart. Plan 380 had worked. It revealed the thief, but it also revealed something worse. Sophia was vulnerable, in the same bed with him. In the morning, I called Dr. Paulo. He tried to take the fake money, I told him, using Sophia's tablet. As expected, he replied, We'll trace it. Time, IP, device. We'll have proof. I need more than proof, Paulo. I need to save my daughter. While he worked, I thought about the next step. The financial trap had worked. But now it was an emotional trap. Ricardo already had Sophia's trust. I needed to break that before it was too late. That night, I decided, no more games of statements. It would be a mother-to-daughter talk, face to face, with lemon cake on the table. At 6 a.m, I sat in the living room armchair, wrapped in a blanket, staring at the dark TV. Silence helped me think. When the sun rose, I made coffee and wrote a short message. Sophia, come home alone. I made that lemon cake you love. She replied within minutes. Why? What's going on? Just come. It's ready. At 2 p.m., I heard the car. Sophia walked in slowly, like someone expecting to find hidden cameras. I hugged her. She didn't hug back right away. We sat in the kitchen, the same place where I used to braid her hair for school. I placed a slice of cake on her plate. I need to talk to you, I said. Really talk. Okay, she answered, eyes down. I took a deep breath. I know Ricardo tried to access an account that wasn't his. He used your tablet. It triggered a security alert. Her face paled. What? No, he wouldn't do that. He did, and the proof is in the bank's system. She shook her head, tears forming. You set him up. You planted that fake money. I protected you. I needed to know who he is. She stood abruptly, bag in hand. This is insane. You're spying. He loves me. Then ask him to explain the login. Explain why he was trying to withdraw 380,000 reais. Now she was crying. He said you're paranoid, that you hate me because I found someone. The bag fell to the floor. She picked it up, sobbing. I need space. She stormed out. I watched the car disappear down the dirt road. I stood in the kitchen, the cake untouched, the smell of lemon hanging in the air. I felt a pain that came not from money or betrayal, but from the distance between mother and daughter. The phone rang. It was Dr. Paulo. Confirmed. We have the IP log. It was Ricardo. I can turn it into a report. I closed my eyes. Do it. Even if she hates me now, she'll need that proof later. But I didn't yet know. The next proof would come from where I least expected. A forgotten video from the graduation itself. The following night was unbearable. I walked from room to room, checking latches, curtains, locks. As if Ricardo could slip through the walls with his false smile, I didn't sleep. At 6 a.m, I was still sitting in the armchair, blanket over my shoulders, staring at the dark TV. I brewed strong coffee, sliced lemons, and set the cake to bake. The sweet smell filled the kitchen, a memory of when Sophia studied for school exams and asked, "Mom, will you make that lemon cake?" I needed that memory alive on the table. I sent a short message. "Come alone. I made the cake you love." She replied quickly, "Why?" "Just come." At 2 p.m, the car pulled into the drive. I saw Sophia get out slowly, glancing around, like someone wary of traps. We walked into the kitchen. I set a slice of cake on her plate and slid it toward her. "I need to really talk." My voice was steady. "Then talk." I looked into her eyes. "Ricardo tried to access an account with your tablet. He tried to withdraw 380,000 reais. The bank blocked it." She paled. "No, he wouldn't do that." "He did. I saw the records." Sophia shook her head, tears rising. "You set him up. That fake money. You made it up. I protected you." She stood abruptly, tears streaming. "This is spying, Mom. You don't trust me. He loves me." I grasped her hand. "Then ask him to explain the login, explain the withdrawal." She pulled her hand back, her eyes filled with pain. "He said you're paranoid, that you hate him because he came into my life." She grabbed her bag and left. Through the window, I watched the car vanish in a cloud of dust. The cake sat untouched on the table. The sweet smell turned bitter in memory. The phone rang. It was Dr. Paulo. Confirmed. IP, time, device. It was him. "Prepare the report." She doesn't believe me, but she'll have to believe the facts. I thought I already had enough proof. I didn't know the strongest one was hidden in a forgotten graduation video. That night, I opened every single graduation recording I could find. Not just the official video with its polished editing, but also the shaky phone clips captured by students, the saved live streams with poor angles, even the grainy files sent by distant relatives who had been watching online. Hours upon hours of speeches echoed in my living room. Proud principals, long lists of names, bursts of applause, shrieks of laughter, the heavy bass of rented speakers shaking the gym floor. I sat hunched forward, eyes burning from the screen's glow, searching frame by frame for a crack in Ricardo's mask. My finger hovered over the pause and rewind keys like a surgeon's scalpel. At first, nothing. He smiled, clapped, adjusted his tie, kissed Sophia's cheek at the right moments. He was a man trained for appearances, but masks slip. And finally, one did. In a corner of the banquet hall, Half hidden from the official cameras, someone's phone had captured him more honestly. Ricardo stood with a champagne glass in hand, surrounded by friends, his tie loosened, his posture relaxed, his guard down. The camera quality was poor, the image pixelated, but the audio clear as confession. One friend leaned closer, laughing, and asked, "So, already married a rich one?" Ricardo threw his head back and laughed, a loud, cocky laugh that didn't belong to the charming man my daughter adored. "Not yet," he boasted, raising his glass, "but give me a month and you'll see." He clinked his glass against theirs as if sealing a contract. His friends roared with laughter, the kind of laughter men share when greed is dressed up as ambition. I froze the frame. My heart pounded in my chest. There it was, vanity laid bare, arrogance transformed into confession. He hadn't been careful. He hadn't needed to be. In his mind, victory was already certain. I clipped the video and sent it immediately to Dr. Paulo. "This is gold," he wrote back within minutes. "Combined with the bank access logs, it's indisputable proof." For the first time in days, I felt something like air filling my lungs, but relief didn't last. The next morning, I called Sophia. No answer. I tried again. Silence. Finally, I sent a message. Hours later, her reply came, curt, cold, stripped of warmth. "Ricardo and I need time. Respect that. No, Mom. Just distance, like a door slammed between us. The abyss widened. I couldn't wait any longer. I drove across town to their apartment building. It was as pretentious as Ricardo himself. Sleek gates of polished steel, cameras perched at every angle, the scent of artificial lavender filling the marble reception. My heels echoed on the floor as I walked to the elevator. I rang the bell at their door, pulse hammering. Ricardo answered. His face was stone, no trace of his rehearsed smile. "Maria, I need to speak to Sophia. She's sleeping. It's 10 a.m. She's tired. I'll wait." He leaned against the frame, casual, but his eyes sharp. "She doesn't want to see you." I drew a deep breath, forcing calm. "You can't stop me. I'm not stopping you. She just doesn't want drama." The word stung. Drama. That was his shield. Paint me as the hysterical mother. Paint her as the reasonable man. I clenched my jaw, turned, and walked away before he could savor the moment. But as I passed the lobby, I slipped a small flash drive into their mailbox. Inside it, the graduation video, the mask ripped off by his own laughter. 2 days later, my doorbell rang. I opened it to find Sophia standing there. Her eyes were swollen. Her hands trembled as she clutched her purse. She stepped inside without a word. I saw the video. Her voice was a whisper, a fragile thread holding back the collapse. I didn't speak. I simply sat beside her, waiting. The silence carried more weight than any argument I could make. Sophia was finally beginning to see, but the reaction she carried inside would break me more than any forged signature ever could. Sophia wouldn't look me in the eye. She sat on the edge of the couch, shoulders tense, hands clasped too tightly in her lap. The silence stretched between us until it became unbearable. Finally, she spoke, her voice low, almost ashamed. I asked him. He said it was a joke, that men say stupid things. Her words hung in the air like smoke. I stayed silent. Every instinct in me wanted to shout, "Do you really believe that?" But I bit my tongue. I didn't want to push her further away. She inhaled sharply, the kind of breath that carries both fear and decision. Then I checked his computer. The history, her voice cracked. He searched how to access trust funds, how to bypass bank account passwords. Her confession filled the room heavier than any scream. I reached for her hand. This time, she didn't pull away. Her fingers, cold and trembling, wrapped weakly around mine. Tears slid down her cheeks, and for the first time in weeks, I let mine fall too. For one fragile moment, the years melted away, and we were simply mother and daughter again, arms around each other, standing against the world as we once did when monsters only lived in childhood shadows. Then the fragile moment shattered. Her phone, lying on the table, buzzed insistently. She wiped her eyes with the back of her sleeve, glanced at the screen, and all the color drained from her face. "It's Ricardo." Her voice was flat now, colder. "He says he got a lawyer." I felt my spine stiffen, the room around me suddenly sharper. "What?" She swallowed, her lips trembling as she repeated his threats. "He said if I try to leave, he'll sue me. That we have a relationship contract. That he'll expose me, claim I used his money for the graduation." The audacity of it hit me like ice water. I cupped her face in my palms, forcing her to look at me. "You didn't use anything, not a cent, but my name is on everything." Her whole body was shaking now. "He saved receipts, transfers, bank slips. He's been keeping a file on me." The realization settled heavy in my chest. Ricardo wasn't satisfied with scheming for money. Now he wanted control. He wanted to twist documents, invent legal chains, drag her into a courtroom and make her fear her own signature. The game had crossed from financial manipulation into psychological warfare. I took a long, deliberate breath, steadying my voice. Then I picked up my phone and called Dr. Paulo. "He's threatening legal action." "Good." His tone was calm, but I could hear the steel beneath it. "Then it's time we play our card." The next day, we met. I chose the location carefully. A law office downtown, walls of glass from floor to ceiling, cameras in every corner. A place where lies would find no shadows. The reception buzzed with footsteps, voices, the shuffle of papers, the perfect stage for transparency. Dr. Paulo arrived carrying a thick report, encased in a dark blue folder. Inside were computer logs, IP records, search history, and at the very center, the video from the graduation. Ricardo's vanity turned into confession. I had memorized each detail, but seeing it bound, official, gave me a new kind of strength. Sophia sat beside me. She was pale, her hands trembling in her lap. But there was resolve in the set of her jaw. I had told her she didn't have to face him, but she had whispered, "I need to hear the truth with my own ears." Ricardo arrived 10 minutes late, as if lateness were power. He wore dark glasses indoors, his black designer sweater too deliberate, his slow steps rehearsed. He shook hands weakly, feigning superiority. And then he saw the folder on the table. He smiled, smug, calculated, but the smile was fragile. With each page he turned, I saw it falter. On the second, he smirked. By the fourth, the corners of his lips stiffened. By the sixth, his jaw clenched, and by the 10th, his face had hardened completely, the dark glasses no longer able to mask the panic rising beneath his skin. His smile was gone, his face hardened, and with each line he read, he knew he was cornered. The game was over. Sophia walked into the house, as if every step drained what little strength she had left. She didn't even take off her shoes, just collapsed onto the couch and sat with her shoulders slumped, her face pale, her eyes glassy. "I watched the video," she whispered, her voice almost hollow. I moved slowly and sat beside her, careful not to crowd her. She didn't lift her eyes from the floor, as though the pattern of the rug was safer than my gaze. "I asked him," she continued after a pause that seemed endless. "He said it was a joke, men's talk, nothing serious." The silence stretched between us, like a rope pulling tight. I could hear the ticking of the wall clock in the kitchen, louder than usual. I didn't press her, though every fiber in me wanted to shout, "That's what abusers always say." I knew she wanted, no, needed, to believe him. Her fingers fidgeted with the strap of her purse, twisting and untwisting it. Then she drew a trembling breath, so I went further. I opened his computer history. Her voice cracked. He searched how to access trust funds, how to bypass bank passwords, It was all there, line after line, not once, many times. I reached for her hand. For the first time in weeks, she didn't pull away. Instead, she let my fingers wrap around hers. And when the tears spilled down her face, she didn't hide them. "I'm sorry, Mom," she sobbed. "I didn't want to believe you." The weight of those words broke me open. My own tears came, and we cried together, two women bound by blood and now by betrayal. I pulled her into my arms, stroked her hair as if she were still my little girl hiding from nightmares. But the moment cracked. Her phone, lying on the coffee table, vibrated sharply, slicing through the fragile peace. Sophia wiped her eyes, sniffled, and picked it up. She answered. I watched the color drain from her face as though the voice on the other end sucked the blood from her veins. "It's Ricardo," she said finally, her tone colder, more detached. "He says he got a lawyer." I straightened in my seat, my spine stiff. "What does he want?" Her lips quivered as she repeated his words. "He said if I leave, he'll sue me, that we have a relationship contract, that he'll expose me, say I used his money for graduation." The absurdity of it burned in my chest, but Sophia's fear was real. I tightened my grip on her trembling hand. "But you didn't. You know you didn't." She shook her head, tears shimmering again. "Doesn't matter. My name is on everything. He kept receipts, transfers, screenshots. He never let anything go unrecorded." Her shoulders shook. "He's building a case, Mom." I felt the truth sink like a stone. Ricardo wasn't satisfied with scheming for inheritance. He was escalating, shaping weapons out of lies and legal threats. If he couldn't strip me of my money, he would strip Sophia of her dignity, of her confidence, until she was a shell of herself. I looked at her, really looked. The young woman with graduation still shining in her hair, now dimmed by fear. The daughter who once ran barefoot through our garden, believing the world safe. And now here she was, cornered by a man who fed on her trust. I brushed her hair back from her face, forced her to meet my eyes. He can threaten all he wants, but truth doesn't bend to his tricks. And this time, Sophia, you won't be alone. For a long moment she just breathed, uneven and shaky. But I saw something flicker in her eyes, a spark trying to survive beneath the layers of doubt. If he wanted a courtroom, I had something better, proof in hand and a daughter finally ready to hear the truth. I scheduled the meeting for the next day at a law office downtown. I insisted on that place. Glass walls from floor to ceiling, discreet cameras in every corner, a reception full of people coming and going. No dark hallways, no rooms where whispers could turn into versions. I wanted transparency in every sense, and I wanted Ricardo to see himself reflected in every surface, with no place to hide. We arrived early. Sophia was at my side, paler than usual, but determined. I had told her she didn't need to face this. She had simply answered, firmly, "I need to see his face when it's over." Dr. Paulo calmly adjusted the documents. The dossier was bound in a dark blue cover, heavy as truth. Access logs, IP screenshots, search history, and in the middle, the graduation video. I had spent the night reviewing that material, memorizing every detail. It was more than paper. It was a wall he couldn't climb. Ricardo arrived 10 minutes late. The delay wasn't carelessness. It was calculation. He opened the door as if stepping onto a stage, wore dark sunglasses and a black designer sweater, walking slowly, performing importance. He greeted with a limp handshake, like a man already tired of formalities. I tried to observe Sophia's reaction. She simply breathed deeply, without shrinking. Dr. Paulo slid the folder across the table with a restrained gesture. "A courtesy copy," he said. Ricardo opened it, flipping pages with studied disdain. At first, there was still irony. He arched his eyebrows, smirked as if spotting flaws in every sentence. But the irony didn't last. On the 5th page, the smirk began to fade. On the 8th, he stopped tapping his fingers with the pen. On the 10th, his lips parted in silence. His face hardened, his body leaned back, as if the chair's backrest could hold him against the weight of the evidence. "There's no crime here," he muttered, trying to regain ground. "You've got nothing." Dr. Paulo answered with the calm of someone who's heard that line 100 times. "We have enough to open investigations. Identity misuse, financial manipulation, forged contract." Ricardo tried to laugh, but his throat failed. The sound died before it formed. He turned to Sophia, searching her eyes for the last plank of salvation. "You told them." She kept her chin high, though her hands trembled beneath the table. "No. You gave yourself away." It was like a blow without physical touch. He slammed the folder shut, the snap echoing against the glass like a confession. He stayed silent for a few seconds, breathing fast, before finally facing me and Paulo. "What do you want?" he asked at last. It was the first time he asked the right question, and I already knew the answer. I leaned forward, not raising my voice, but with a firmness that left no room for reply. "You will disappear from my daughter's life. You'll close all joint accounts, sign the disconnection papers. No disputes, no court." He gave a bitter laugh, trying to mask his nerves. "Or what?" Dr. Paulo opened the extra folder he had brought. "Or we make it public. We have everything documented. Logins, contracts, videos, search history. A reporter is already waiting for the material. One click, and tomorrow your name will be on the front page as the man who tried to steal a family inheritance." I looked straight into his eyes. One click of an email, and it's over. Ricardo leaned back, as if seeking support in a chair suddenly too small for his body. He turned to Sophia, hoping she would tremble, hesitate, but no. She slid the pen across the table, her fingers steady, her eyes fixed. He grabbed the pen, signed quickly, page after page, each signature a step out of our lives. When he finished, he dropped the pen as if it burned, adjusted his sunglasses, stood and left without looking back. The door closed with a sharp snap. The silence that remained was heavier than any scream. Sophia collapsed at once, her body falling into my arms without strength. I held her, cradled her as when she was small and had nightmares. "It's over. You're safe now." But she pulled back, tears running down her face. "No, Mom. It only ends when I fix what I broke with you." I cupped her face in my hands. "You broke nothing. You believed in love. That isn't a mistake. That's being human." She closed her eyes, took a deep breath. We stayed there in silence, the same silence that, weeks earlier, consumed me, but that now brought peace. Outside, the city carried on. Inside the house, life reclaimed its place. Ricardo had left with nothing. My daughter remained with me, with everything. And I realized, money had never been the true inheritance. The inheritance was something deeper, invisible, that no signature could steal, the truth restored between us. And if you too believe a mother will do anything to protect her children, leave your opinion in the comments. Share this story with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to the channel to follow more real stories of courage and justice.